Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning Committee here on the 30th. This was the one which was sadly rebooked due to the lack of electricity in the building in half of Mid Sussex. But anyway, welcome to everybody. I'm Councillor Gary Marshall. I'm the chairman of the Planning Committee. To my left is my vice chairman, Councillor Philip Coote. To my right is Steve Ashdown, who's head of planning here today. To his right is Paula, who's our legal officer. To her right is Caroline, who's got the first agenda. In the two corners are people from committees who make sure we do a pretty damn good job. And in front of me are the members of the committee who are going to make the decision. Right. Can I, before we start, I'm going to ask my vice chairman to read out the fire safety announcement. Councillor Coote.
Alarm. 1. Leave the building by the nearest marked exit. 2. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, large staff car park opposite the main entrance to the building. 3. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by officers present after the people have left. 4. Do not return to the building until told it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council's site is a no smoking area and mobile phones must be switched to silent or preferably off. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Right, to go to the agenda now. Item 1 is to receive apologies for absence. I received an apology from Councillor Robert Eccleston. Item 2 is to receive declarations of interest in respect of any matter on the agenda. Nope, I have none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown, didn't see you there. A bit higher.
Thank you, Chairman. I declare a non-prejudicial interest in agenda item 5, as I am local correspondent for the Open Spaces Society in Mid Sussex.
Item 5, what, Cedar Lodge?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you got that? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting we held here on the 9th of February. Can I get people to signal in the normal way? Green if you agree with the minutes, red if you don't. I think I've got them all. Right, that is approved and I will sign the minutes at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is to consider any urgent business that I agree to take as urgent business. I have none. So we're here for now for the substantive parts, and this is DM 223871 Cedar Lodge, Hackington Lane, East Grinstead, and this is yours, Caroline. All yours.
Thank you, Chairman. This application seeks planning permission for an automated timber 5-bar entrance gate, permeable driveway surface treatment, dropped curb and planting at Cedar Lodge, Hackington Lane, East Grinstead. I'd like to draw members' attention to the update sheet as a further representation has been received in objection to this application. The application relates to Cedar Lodge, which is a detached bungalow that is situated to the east of Hackington Lane, where access is currently gained to the property. Direct neighbours are situated to the south of the site, whilst ancient woodland lies to the east and to the north above. There is an area of land to the west of Cedar Lodge that separates Hackington Lane from Aldersview Drive. This parcel of land is where the proposed development is to be sited. This slide shows the existing site plan, and the land to which the application relates is this parcel of land here, with Hackington Lane to above and Aldersview Drive below. There are 2 public rights of way around the application site. Hackenden Lane forms one public footpath, and the second is to the side here, which connects to Aldersview Drive. It should also be noted that while Cedar Lodge is within the defined countryside, the built-up area boundary of East Grinstead lies to the west of Hackenden Lane. As such, the majority of land to which this application relates is within the built-up area of East Grinstead. This is the proposed site plan. It shows the position of the automated gate here and the associated post and rail fencing to either side. This is the area of hard standing, which is to be permeable, and proposed planting to either side here, including a hedgerow and trees. The access to be approximately 2.9 metres wide and would provide direct access to Cedar Lodge from Aldersview Drive. It is intended to be used by the residents of Cedar Lodge only. These are the existing and proposed elevations. The two elevations at the bottom of the screen show the proposed gate and fence arrangement. The proposed fencing is to be approximately 1 metre high and the gate 1.2 metres. These show photographs towards the site from Aldersview Drive. The area of land is here, and it was previously undeveloped and covered in vegetation. It has since been cleared, as shown in the pictures. The vegetation was not formally protected, and as such, no permission was required for these works. You can also see that it appears vehicles have been using the land to cross. The removal of the vegetation has resulted in the loss of a visual buffer between Hackenden Lane, which is the countryside, and Aldersview Drive, the built-up area. It's considered that this has changed the character of the area, as there's no longer a green buffer between these two. The proposed access road would only be suitable for one-way traffic and would be significantly narrower than Aldersview Drive, that highway there. Landscaping is also proposed as part of the development, which is considered to soften it and would be a benefit to the area. This can be secured by a planning condition. The gate and fence design was also thought to provide an appropriate separation between these areas, and details of the gate mechanism have also been provided, setting out that it is to be used by remote control. These photographs have been taken from Hackenden Lane, looking south at the top two and north across the bottom. The Highways Authority and Public Rights of Way officer have been consulted on the application and have raised no objections. The Highways Authority is satisfied that suitable visibility would be provided and that the installation of the gate would prevent the access from being used as a rat run. A condition has been recommended so that the gate is installed prior to the first use of the access. No objection has also been raised by the Council's drainage engineer. It's therefore concluded that the proposed development would not appear incongruous in the surrounding area or result in significant highways concerns or drainage issues. The distinction has been lost between the built-up area and the countryside, and the proposed access is not substantial in width and would be surrounded by landscaping. The additional level of use, given the purpose of the development, would not give rise to significant immunity concerns for residents in Aldersview Drive. An automatic gate is included as part of the development, which would prevent direct through traffic, and no objections have been raised by the Highways Authority, Public Rights of Way officer or drainage engineer. The recommendation before you is therefore for permission, subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A. Thank you, Chairman.
This is the speakers, apart from members, of course they have to come back. But I'd like to thank the members of the public who were unfortunately inconvenienced last time because of beyond our powers. So thank you very much for attending and wishing to speak again. So we have a traffic light system here, which is operated by our legal officer. When you start to speak, I shall ask you to get to the where it says speaker first. When you start speaking, the legal officer will switch on the lighting system and you get a green light, and for 90 seconds it will remain green, and then as it trips into 91 seconds it will go to amber, and then after 30 seconds it will go to red, and when it gets to red I shall ask you to conclude in one sentence. Your timing won't start until such times you actually start to speak. So, are you Mr. Stephen Winchester? Fine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm reading this on behalf of Terry Pennell. There was a serious omission from the Chief Executive's publication. Safety of children was not included in the summary of objections, despite several residents explicitly raising it. I emailed the case officer on discovering this, but I briefly summarise here. The applicant's site is at a junction of 3 public footpaths, Aldersview Drive, The Woods and Hackenden Lane. Vehicles will drive across the lane at that junction in both directions. We're particularly concerned about those age 4 up, pupils of Blackwall Primary School, where they're running, playing, whatever, climbing the powered gate, hit by when activated and so on. The bottom line is children are not mere pedestrians. The applicant gave accurate answers in his application. We raised them here in the context of trust. Asked whether work had started, he said no, yet it started in August. Asked if any trees or hedges were to be removed, he said no, yet an area twice that of the proposed site has already been bulldozed of all vegetation. Asked whether there are hedges on land adjacent to the development site that might be important to the landscape character, he said no. A quick look at the current scene is all it takes to see why residents resent that position. With the same respect, he ignored rulings of this committee and West Sussex Highways, not only destroying the established hedging, but ever since driving illegally into Aldersview Drive, with no consideration for others. We therefore have no confidence that he will comply with any requirements imposed if his application is approved. In summary, there is no legitimate need for a new access and many reasons against it, not least the widespread fears of further applications to develop this large tract of land. Could this be a gate for a Trojan horse? Thank you.
I'll now call Colin Dearman, please, who's speaking on behalf of Christine Payne. Same again, Mr. Dearman, as soon as you start to speak, your time starts.
Good afternoon. It's unusual that such an application would come to the committee, but the number of objections from the residents and the recommendation for refusal from the Town Council hint that there is more at stake here. Firstly, as a developer, I am sure Mr. Lederer would have been aware that the trees and hedge that he has destroyed in preparation for his application were in fact recommended for protection by this very committee in 2017 and 2021. Yet the planning officer presents his actions in destroying the green screening as a reason to approve his application. Secondly, the planning officer also recommends an automatic gate and a condition that the access be only used by the residents of Cedar Cottage to mitigate the concerns regarding a potential rat run. This is only true so long as the gate is adequately maintained in coming years. There is no guarantee that this will happen, and the hedge and trees should be reinstated as a much more effective and permanent barrier. How will restricted use be enforced? Residents of Little Alders have already stated in their letter of support their own desire for a driveway, which will be over the public footpath again. Thirdly, there has been little consideration for the safety or well-being of pedestrians and children. In 2017, the then PROW officer, after a site visit, shared concerns about the visibility of pedestrians where vehicles cross the footpath, and also suggested a condition that the footpath alongside the drive be improved by the applicant. None of this was mentioned in the desktop.
Mr. Dearman, can you just finish your last sentence, please? Right, don't worry, just finish your last sentence.
None of this was mentioned in the desktop exercise for this application. Finally, the current proposal for a permeable drive takes no account of the earlier geological survey that suggested that soakways would be ineffective because of the slope of the land.
Okay, that's a long sentence. I'm sorry. I'm normally quite flexible, but that was a very, very long sentence.
I beg your pardon. Have I finished it?
Yes, you have, yes. That's why I interrupted you, sorry.
I'm sorry. I would like to say that.
No, you can't. Sorry, Mr. Dearman. All right, and speaking in support of the application is Pierre Lederer. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am the applicant and resident in relation to this application for a proposed domestic driveway linking our property to Eldersview Drive. Our property's existing access is an off-road track from Hackenden Lane. It is restricted by a bridge and is a substantial distance to the main road. The track doubles as a shared public footpath that serves Eldersview Drive. Pedestrians clash with our vehicle movements due to limited track width and is impractical for everyday family use. Due to the distance and cost, it is unviable to upgrade our access to hard surface. Maintenance of the track is a regular occurrence due to ever-increasing ruts formed by vehicle public use at our cost. As proposed, connecting our family home to Eldersview Drive makes the most sense due to its immediate proximity to our property and saves the need for a long indirect route via an off-road track and restricted bridge. Our bins are collected from Eldersview Drive, as our lorries are unable to access our property. There is no vehicle access for emergency fire services to our property. Eldersview Drive is a substantial and wide road that serves approximately 70 driveways. Our property historically connected to Eldersview Drive via vehicle gated access, which has since overgrown and presently serves pedestrians to and from Eldersview Drive. The parcel of land serving this proposed access is entirely within our ownership. We have engaged with our immediate neighbours in an effort to design out their concerns through various iterations over 2 meetings. Proposed design, including planting, was further amended and resubmitted in response to their concerns. The proposed design ensures the driveway is minimal and does not form a rat run via our existing private track from any stray public vehicles.
Mr. Lederer, can you finish in one sentence, please?
Yeah. And just a comment, we recently cleared the bramble and vegetation and small saplings from the parcel of land that connects our home to Eldersview Drive. The previous mature trees were removed before our ownership. And hopefully I've properly demonstrated our urgent and essential need for this driveway.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. If you'd like to take your seat. Now, I'm going to call the local ward member, which is Councillor Julie Motford. Now, she's not subjected to the 2 minutes. That's what it feels like sometimes. 2 minutes, but, and there will be a but. Don't speak quickly, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of this committee. I am saddened that I'm sitting here having to object to an application which is unnecessary, as there is adequate access to this property via Hackenden Lane. This is an application that needs to be seen to be understood, and East Grinstead Town Council are disappointed that once again it only merits a desktop survey by the Highways Department at West Sussex. Preventing coalescence doesn't always refer solely to towns and villages. If this application is approved, it opens the route for a rat run between wards with additional traffic using a small restricted weight railway bridge. This is a long-standing public right-of-way that is perfectly placed for school children to use as a walk-to-school route, taking cars off our overburdened roads, particularly Blackwell Farm Road. There are aspirations to use this as part of our LC Whip route. I am very disappointed that an established mixed hedgerow has been removed prior to this application being decided. I presume that this was to circumnavigate DP 37. The hedgerow once added to the visual amenity value enjoyed by the residents of Aldersview Drive. They now look at a bare mud patch, which is already being used by vehicles, resulting in a recent near miss with pedestrians, including a child. So I speak here for East Grinstead Town Council and the residents of Aldersview Drive who cannot understand nor condone the creation of an unnecessary access which has the potential to have a devastating effect on them and their idyllic cul-de-sac and beyond. Therefore, I recommend that you refuse this application, and I do thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Mockford. That was very succinct. Thank you. All right, now before we go to the substantial part, there was a couple of items that were raised and that I wish to raise. One with the officer, and one which was said about potentially opening up the site behind. So can I ask Mr. Ashdown for that one, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So, reference has been made to potential development in the future. It's important that that is not a consideration for this committee today. You have to determine the application, what's in front of you, on the basis of what's in front of you. If further applications come down the line, then they will be considered on their own merits at their own time. So please just focus on what is in front of you. And the Chairman's asked me to have a look at DP 37 in terms of, which is our district plan policy, which deals with trees and hedgerows. Clearly, in terms of, we quite rightly set out that in terms of the vegetation that has been removed, wasn't protected and didn't require consent in its own right. And clearly, while our policy in terms of DP 37 seeks to retain trees, hedgerows and woodland, particularly those which are protected through development, and that's what clearly we would do as part of any application proposal. But as you know, these vegetation has already been removed, then that can't be a reason for refusal. And clearly, as part of the proposal, there are landscaping and replanting proposed, and you should take that into account when you're considering the application, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ashdown. And also, if you go, members, if you go to page 26, please, and it says West Sussex County Council Highway Authority. We've done this as WSCC Highways Authority. Second paragraph down, it says in its role as the local highway authority, they undertook a site visit on the 11th of January of this year. It was evidence from the site that works have respectively began in preparation for the proposed development. So they did actually go to that site. But you're right, they tend not to. It's just because of the history on this site. So, members, debate. Oh, blimey. Councillor DeVale.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, I have visited this site. I've remained not predetermined, but I've had a great deal of, had a good look at this, and I've had a good look at, I believe there have been other applications that have been made concerning this site regarding development. And what springs to my mind is a simple phrase, ride roughshod. And from what I've seen, what used to be there, some rather nice bramble hedges alongside a footpath, which connects with further footpaths at the back that people could use, and looked at this particular application, which is ostensibly, it looks like some family home that requires a better access to the main road system. But from what I've seen, I understand what the officer's saying, that we have to work on this application. But from what I've seen, this is a sort of a lead-in to something else, and the crossover has been created for that purpose, to make it better able to do some sort of a developing at the back there. But of course, we have to vote on this only. Now, I have to say this sort of sticks in my craw a little bit, because it looks to me as though softly is the way forward on this one. And basically, I'm sorry to say, I know the officer's done a great deal of work, and I totally appreciate the position that you're in, but I don't like it. I don't like to see what's going on here, and therefore I shall vote against it. Thank you.
That's honest. Thank you, Councillor DeBell. I actually visited the site prior to going on my skiing trip, and I didn't expect to ever see this again until it the electrical problem. So I do know the area, and I think I was on the committee on both occasions when it did come to planning committee. So I do know the area quite well, and I think the term is mission creep, isn't it? I think that's what it is. I'm going to take Councillor Sweatman before the two others who are in my queue, purely because they're both East Grinstead councillors. So, Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as the officer has said, we have to look at this application that is in front of us. The highways have been out, they've done a study on this, and they raised no objection to visibility displays, etc. Also, they will still need, or the applicant will still need permission to cross the PRO and the drop curb, as I understand. Now, the second speaker, I sympathise with some of your comments about the hedgerow or the being removed. However, that is intended to be replaced with trees, etc. So it'd be interesting to see. And of course, the 5-year rule applies that if something dies, it has to be replaced. There's just a couple of other things. On our first set of papers that we had, compared to the ones...
This is we've got to go for this one, Councillor.
Yes, I know, but what I'm going to say, Chairman, if you don't mind...
Yeah, go on.
On the previous one, there was a condition 5, which is not in these current papers. And it says, the driveway hereby permitted shall be used for the benefit of the residents of Cedar Lodge, Hackenden Lane, East Grinstead only. That seems to be missing because what I'm rather concerned is that it could be used by other residents, and I will come on to the fact that the automated gate, I would like for the case officer maybe to explain that it is maintained in working order at all times. If it breaks, there's probably a default position where it's in the up position, as far as I understand. So if that is left for some considerable time, then other users could use it, which is my concern, that it being used other than the residents of the Cedar Lodge cottage. Yes, like I say, I don't think we got any planning reasons to refuse this, but I would just like the conditions tightened up to actually ensure that it is purely for the resident of Cedar Lodge only. Thank you, Chairman.
I'm going to ask Mr Ashdown to answer those questions, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, in terms of the, Councillor Sweatman's quite right, in terms of the updated papers, then condition 5 has been removed. Prior to that committee, in terms of the update sheet that would have been presented at that committee, we were seeking to remove it then. Essentially, officers reflected in terms of the actual wording of the condition, and while we certainly accept and agree to the sentiment, what we have to be mindful of in terms of any planning condition has to meet 6 tests, and one of those is enforceability. It has to be enforceable, and essentially in terms of the wording of that previous condition, then it's our professional view that it would not be enforceable. Therefore, we should not be putting on a condition that is not enforceable. And that sort of moves on quite nicely in terms of your request in terms of tightening up the condition around maintenance. Again, I can understand the sentiment behind that. Again, we would have concerns, or do have concerns, about whether such a condition is enforceable. However, what I'm happy to suggest is that we can put an informative on that will cover in terms of requesting that the applicant or the owner of the property maintains the gate in good order at all times, and we can put that on as an informative.
Are you happy with that, with the affirmative, Councillor Sweatman?
Yes, Chairman, like I say, my intention was to protect the residents. There's no planning reason for this application to be refused. I mean, I've sat on planning committees for a long time, and unfortunately, you can't refuse it, in my view. But to tighten up on the conditions to protect what we can with the residents and to mitigate the impact, then I'm quite happy with the informative. Thank you.
Thank you. My Vice Chairman, Councillor Coote.
Thank you, Chairman. For the purposes of clarity, one of the speakers mentioned public footpaths. I'm not quite sure because I can't see that they're designated public footpaths, but if they are designated footpaths, only the applicant and people to do with the applicant, i.e. deliveries and that kind of thing, are allowed to drive over a public footpath. It is, and I make it quite clear, because I live in a wood with footpaths, it is a criminal offence to drive your car, bicycle, over a public footpath if you have no business to be there, i.e. you're using it as a rat run. Also, I put up as evidence, I was for 7 years Vice Chairman of the Rights of Way for West Sussex County Council. And so therefore, anybody that uses this, other than the applicant and people serving the applicant, are, as I've said, committing a criminal offence. And as I said, I live in a wood where we have 2 public footpaths, and I've made it quite clear to 1 or 2 people at their great astonishment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. That was well put in. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I wonder if it would be possible for the officer to put up the response from the rights of way, the public rights of way officer, dated, what's its date? The 10th of January 2023. I won't wait for that. Is that possible to put that up for us?
What page, please?
It's the response.
Oh, you can't put it on the screen.
No, we can't.
No. Can you? I thought it was. It's in the report, page 27.
Yes, but there's a diagram of the rights of way at the end of it, which is what I wanted to speak to. But if you can't put it up, we'll just have to imagine it.
Okay, Mr. JR.
My concern is that this creates a dangerous situation because the existing path 416 SY crosses this entrance, this new entrance that's being made to this development. Well, there isn't any development, it's just an entrance to an existing site. And it's perpendicular to the boundary of the site, and it's, you know, I couldn't personally agree to this planning application because I'd feel a personal involvement if somebody was injured here. And there's a simple solution to this as well. I can't really understand why the public rights of way officer hasn't seen it. What they've said is safe and convenient. This is condition 4, safe and convenient public access is to be available at all times across the full width. Well, it's never going to be safe. And having visited the site, and from Aldersview Drive, I noticed that people have now made a hole in the hedge so that they can proceed without going on all this mud at the moment in the direction of Blackwell School and over the railway bridge. And I thought, why is that there? And that's the reason, obviously. And what my suggestion would be, and I know it's not our job to make suggestions, but this is what I'd want to see, and this is why I couldn't possibly support this, and that is that this right of way, this 416 SY, is diverted a few feet onto Aldersview Drive before this gate, and then people then proceed across the dropped curb and the drop curb would then function as the right-of-way. And that could be very easily done as a public path diversion order under section 119 of the Highways Act. And that's something that the County Council really should have thought about. And so that's my position on this. And that's why I declared an interest as local correspondent of the Open Spaces Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'm trying to visualise, I've just had it sort of shown to me, and that is up where the blue line. I'm just going to stand up a second. Oh yeah, use the cursor. That bit there is the one right of way. And then you've got the one which goes down Hackenden Lane.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about, Chairman.
Hackenden Lane one.
The Hackenden Lane one to be done.
The Hackenden Lane one, yes.
Yeah, that is a very long drawn out thing, because I've had a couple in my own ward. The Public Right of Way Committee, which he's probably going to shout at me at, are very reluctant to change historical routes.
Yeah, absolutely right.
They absolutely will not do it unless there is a necessary need for it. But again, that's out of the scope of this building, of our committee, and that's a West Sussex County Council function, and that's something that they may or may not do in the future. But I respect what you've said, but that is beyond our remit on today.
Might come back, Chairman.
Can you press
It's
button?
like getting a public footpath altered is like pushing water uphill with a rake. It is extremely difficult, takes at least 18 months to 2 years, and is unlikely to be a case. Normally, if you are going to change a footpath, there has to be betterment, i.e. You're walking between two houses and you change that to walking by some lakes. In that case, and I'm thinking of a particular case, in that case, people have a better view, it's a nicer walk, and in fact it was slightly longer, made the footpath slightly longer, but it was granted. But it did take 2.5 years to get it through.
I'm just going to give you a suggestion, Councillor Brown, because I think that you have some merit there. We could actually ask the officer, he's going to shout at me if I get this wrong, we could actually ask the officer to write to the public's right-of-way officer in County Council to revisit that. Is that within our remit? Because we have done things like this before.
Bear with me a second.
Oh, we're taking legal advice. You've taken advice.
Sorry, Chairman, we're just trying to figure out, because usually in terms of footpath diversions, they, particularly where there's a development, obviously it's not part of this application, so we can't take that into account.
No, we can't.
Clearly, where they're part of a wider development, then it is the applicant would usually make an application to West Sussex in order to divert that footpath as a result of their development. So just speaking to legal, so we're not sure in terms of writing to West Sussex whether West Sussex can then unilaterally make an application to themselves to divert a footpath. So I think, if a footpath diversion were to be explored, then I think that would probably need to be an application by the applicant to West Sussex to divert the footpath.
Okay. Does that satisfy you?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Steve. I mean, there's also the fact that there is really no development here means that this council can't take any action under the Town and Country Planning Act, section 247 or 257. So there's a question to the legal officer. I mean, we have got we have got a dangerous situation here. That's something that we've all got to think about. I'm over and out.
You weren't in the army, so don't go there. Right, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. Just mentioned we did actually get a footpath diverted in Copthorne recently, but that was part of a development. But on this, I do have a concern about the safety. Do we have any idea how old Cedar Lodge is and how long the other entrance has been used for?
Oh, blimey, that's a good question. I don't think you do. I could ask the owner, but I better not. Yeah.
They had extensions in 1998, so it's been around for a while.
Had an extension in 1998, so it was prior to that.
Yeah, so the actual the other existing entrance has been used for some considerable time then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Cartwright.
Yes, I was just a bit confused by this because there's talk of rat runs, but as far as I can see on the map, there's only one house here, which is the one that is making the application. And also that presumably the access at the moment is along Hackenden Lane, which is the footpath which we're concerned about. So
I think the concern is people using Hackenden Lane then dive down this bit here to get elsewhere in East Grinstead. Have I got that right? Yeah, I've got that right from the ward councillor. I think that's what the rat run, perception of the rat run is. It's people using it, go down Hackenden Lane, hang a left through that gate.
Right.
I think that's what the people were concerned about, but if there's a gate in the way.
Yeah, exactly. I feel I haven't got quite enough information on this.
Okay. Councillor Sain.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I got two questions about loss of amenity and detrimental impact to the residents. Would this council, considering these two aspects, I mean, I think myself that there will be an impact on amenity, loss of amenity, and detrimental impact to the resident as well.
What, putting a gate in? Loss of amenity?
Yes. And detrimental impact is on page 11. You got from this question. It is.
Oh, that's a member of the public has put that in as a.
Yes.
I'll ask the officer, is there a loss of amenity? I can't see one myself, but.
Sorry, this was considered in the report on page 19. There is a section which looks at the impact to residents' amenity. It says, due to, as it's a gate being installed, due to the scale and nature of this addition, it was considered that there wouldn't be a harmful impact to neighbours' light outlook or privacy due to the route. And due to the limited use of the access, as it's only intended to be used for the applicant's purpose, it was considered that there would not be a significant harm in terms of noise, air or light pollution above and beyond, significantly above and beyond the current situation due to it only being associated with one extra property.
Okay. And we've got a full house now. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Chairman. I know I bring this up every time. I mention it so often at West Sussex when I'm there. The Public Rights of Way officer, no objection. It's been considered by means of a desktop study. It really annoys me that they sit in Chichester looking at a map and not go to the site. But that's as it is. They say they've got no objection. So we're tied.
Yeah. Succinct words. I think I'm going to go with Councillor Sweatman here. I can't see any reasons for this to be refused, but obviously it's down to yourselves. So I think we've had quite a good debate on this one, so I'm going to ask you to vote. Green, if you think it's to go with the officer's recommendation. Red if you don't, and Amber if you're sitting on the fence? Oh, I need a seconder. Councillor Coote, sorry, do apologise. I've only got 7 people voted so far.
I missed the chance to vote.
Can we start again? Right, now vote. Now, Councillor Sweatman is going to be the proposer. Councillor Coote is the seconder. There's only 9 now. And an abstention. So that's only... I've got 6, 4, no, I've got them all. I've got everybody now, 6, 4, 11. Right, can we have that up on the screen, please? Do you want to read that out, Paula, just
So the results are 6 votes in favour of the application, 4 votes against, 1 vote abstain, so the motion is carried.
Thank you. That application is improved. Thank you. Thank you very much. But you could. And we just scream over and say no. Yeah, they did.
When you gave them to the gate, you're going to my son.
I'm going to go and sit over there for a second.
Yeah, go on.
Right.
You've got 1.
That's fine, because I'm only going to sit here for this one. And then I'm leaving again.
Yeah, he's unfortunately the officer is not around. Oh, yeah, he's not around. So Mr. Ashdown has kindly stepped in to do this one. Mr. Ashdown. This is item 6, yes. This is Linfield Bowling Club, Linfield Common, and it's DM 223791. Mr. Ashdown. Who's Hamish for today?
Thank you, Chairman. So, permission is sought for a toilet block to the north of Linfield Bowling Club car park. So here's the car park here, location of the toilet block. To the east here is Backwards Lane, and then further to the east is the main part of the common, but also this area here where the block is located also forms part of Linfield Common. The site falls within the built-up area and also the conservation area of Linfield. So, in terms of what is proposed, the block itself will measure 5.1 metres by 7.4 with an overall height of 5 metres. The building will be finished in a brown brick under a grey slate roof. Members will note from the report that there was a previous approval on the site for a similar size toilet block in a similar location, which was approved by this committee in March 2019. As I said, this is the previous approval, and the main difference between this extant approval and the application before members is the fact that the new proposal contains a changing places toilet. So just in terms of, I'm sure most members are fully aware of the common and its surrounds, but this is the entrance to the car park at the bottom of this picture, and this is the location of the toilets here. You can see Backwards Lane to this side of the photo. This is looking down towards the main part of the common where the toilet will sit in the foreground here. Again, another view looking towards the car park. Again, the toilet will sit in the foreground. The issues are set out in full in the report before members. To quickly summarise, the design is considered acceptable and will conserve the character and appearance of the conservation area. It's not considered that the proposal will lead to any likely significant harm to nearby residential amenities. The impact on adjacent trees and highways is considered acceptable, and overall the application is considered to comply with all relevant development plan policies and is recommended for approval, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ashdown. I should have reminded members that the only reason it's here is because we actually own the land that it's sitting on. No doubt you've all picked up on the report. So we do have a speaker. It's Mrs. Joy May, who without dig myself into a hole anymore. I'm speaking on behalf of Daphne Todd.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking on behalf of Linfield Bowling Club. I'm the fixtures secretary. And we are well aware that this came before you and it was passed in 2019. And the reason it's come back is an update in legislation, understood. Since 2019, the whole area has become a whole lot busier. The primary school in Linfield has added on classrooms. There are many, many more children using the area. And this we thought was an opportunity to come before you to oppose it, mainly on safety grounds. Whilst we are not against the provision of such an amenity in the village, it's the position that we are concerned about. Most of the people who will use it will be common users, using Linfield Common. Maybe cricket, maybe football, you've got a children's playing ground. And I don't know if any of you know the area well, but in the summer, the village common is the place where people congregate. The circus comes, the fair comes, which is wonderful, but this amenity, to get to it, you have to cross Backwards Lane. And it is the place where you're going to cross from the common to the car park to use the toilets. There's no pavements. So we're very, very concerned about the safety. Historically, there was antisocial behaviour when there were conveniences there before. Drug users, drug paraphernalia was around and it was removed. So our main concern is the site will force users to cross a very, very busy road. The building is large and we don't actually think it fits in. It's very, very pretty there, trees, grass, and to have a public convenience in that place is not pretty to look at. We wonder why it cannot be sited on the common so that people don't have to cross the road. So it's near the cricket club.
Oh, sorry, yeah, your 2 minutes is up. Thank you. Thank you. Members, an important point was raised there. If you go to page 32, it's the West Sussex Highways Authority, and there's their summary. It says, in summary, the LHA, which does not consider this proposal will have an unacceptable impact on the highway safety or result in severe cumulative impacts on the operation of the highways network. It has had extant planning permission, and that we have taken very much into consideration. It has been upgraded, so because of the change in places, which is a very, very welcome for people who need that part of the toilet. I think the main difference from this one and the previous one, because I think I was around long enough ago, I think this one is going to be closed by the parish council. I think the parish council have got the authority, will have it to open and close it. It's their responsibility. It's basically, we put it in on behalf of the parish council, but I was a portfolio holder at the time when this was being discussed. That's as far as I had any impact into it. And it's going to be the parish council going to have the operation of opening the doors and closing the doors. So looking at the design, I don't think there's any way you can congregate like they used to be, because I agree, where it was there before, it was it was a magnet for antisocial behaviour.
In view of the fact we've had permission before, Chairman, move as recommended.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Forbes?
That's basically what I was going to say. I was going to say there's 13 letters of support. Both councils, rural parish councils, are for it. The Mid Sussex antisocial behaviour have put no objection subject to toilets being locked in the evening. I can't see any reason. I've recommended to accept.
Okay. Councillor Pulfer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll excuse me a little bit of facetiousness to start with. I see there's a house there called Stellenbosch, and I thought for one glorious minute I was in the middle of the South African wine fields with some of the finest wines, but we're not. We're in Mid Sussex.
I've been to Stellenbosch. As nice as Linfield Common is, I wouldn't put it in the same sentence.
But, Mr. Chairman, I think that whilst the objection was well-founded, but I've also felt that the well-foundedness of the objection has actually demonstrated the necessity of having the public convenience. And so I would be one for supporting it.
To be perfectly honest to the members, we did look long and hard for locations for this site, and it was the least evasive one. But that's then I ceased to become a cabinet member after that. So can I ask everybody we've got a proposer, Councillor Coote, secondary Councillor Forbes. Can I ask you to vote, please, accordingly? I have all 11, so therefore it is approved. Thank you very much. You can come back to your hole now. There will be a slight delay while the officer just comes in and sets up the her application. Now, members, you are aware that we did have our electrical problem, and one of the speakers was due to speak. Unfortunately, he's out of the country, so therefore his statement is going to be read by the legal officer. It will be subject to the 2-minute rule, as as the want we do, and I know we've moved away from that because of the extreme circumstances. We had the electrical failure that we took advice, and we are allowing it to be so. So we are now going to be doing item 7, which is the grain store, Holsted Farm, Staplefield Road, and yours, Rachel. No, we'll just get the talk through first, and then we'll do the speakers. Rachel, all yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Members should refer to the update sheet. Condition 5 has been added to restrict any external storage. Turning to slide 1, this application is at the grain store in Holmstead Farm, Staplefield Road, Cuckfield. And the application is proposing a change of use of building from B8 storage and distribution to EG2 research and development of products or processes. And there are amended elevations, planning and ventilation extractions statements received on the 21st of October, as well as a transport statement received on the 25th of November. This is slide 2. It is the location plan, and it shows the road running in a north-south direction. This is the B2114, and the access comes in here, and the application site is here outlined in red. This is the grain store building. Slide 3 is a block plan, and it shows an enlarged version of where the grain store is located within the site, subject of this application.
Excuse me.
Just trying to turn it onto the next one. This is slide 4. This is the proposed floor plan, and the slide shows the internal layout for the proposed use. Access is via the existing roller shutter doors on the western side of the building, just here and here. This is slide 5, and this shows the existing floor plans and elevations and of the grain store. It is a typical agricultural building with concrete breeze block walls and metal clad sheeting above. And the next slide shows the proposed elevations, and it shows the external alterations, which consist of the flue measuring 0.3 metres high and below ridge height, which is here and here. An air inlet on the northern slope, water treatment vent to the eastern part of the roof, and 2 vents to provide drier and cooler outlets on the southern elevation. No other external changes are proposed, and the building envelope and volume will remain as existing. And the slide 7 shows the photographs that I've taken from site. It shows the western elevation, which is the front elevation with the shutter doors. It shows the view from the southern side of the site, which is the higher level of the site, and you can see that the building is actually partly sunken into the ground due to the sloping levels. And then on the opposite side, this is the rear of the site, so this is the eastern elevation, and you can see the gap between buildings, and you can see that actually the land falls away as well to the western side of the building, with the lower building there. And then inside the building itself. And finally, slide 8 is the recommendation, which is that permission is granted subject to conditions as outlined at Appendix A. The main issues for consideration are set out in my officer report. However, to sum up, the principle of the development is acceptable. Members will be well aware legislation requires the application to be determined in accordance with the development plan unless material circumstances indicate otherwise. It is considered that the application is in accordance with the development plan and that this is the proper starting point for decision making. However, the Council also must have regard to other material considerations, including the National Planning Policy Framework, in determining this application. Policy DP12 in the district plan is a starting point, and this policy allows for development in the countryside, provided it maintains or, where possible, enhances the quality of the rural and landscape character. Only minor external changes will be made to the building, which will not change its physical appearance or building envelope. Under policy DP12, the proposal must also be supported by another adopted development plan policy. DP Policy 1 gives priority to the reuse or adaptation of rural buildings for businesses or tourism use and to the diversification of activities on existing farm units. The application is proposing a change of use of a rural building. Permission was granted last year for use of the building as storage and distribution. Permission is now sought for its change of use to research and development of products or processes. The system proposed essentially involves the burning of waste wood, which subsequently gets converted into heat and power, as well as providing fertiliser and aggregates. Paragraph 188 of the National Planning Policy Framework makes it explicit that planning policies and decisions should be on whether the proposed development is an acceptable use of the land, rather than control of processes or emissions. There are separate pollution control regimes operated by pollution control authorities that deal with the control of processes or emissions. The applicant has submitted an environmental permit to the Environment Agency, which is pending a decision. As part of that environmental permit, the applicant had to produce an air quality assessment, which has also been submitted with this application. However, this is for additional information and must not influence the planning decision. The planning decision must concentrate on the use of the land only. The National Planning Policy Framework states that it is for planning decisions to assume that the separate pollution control regimes will operate effectively. Therefore, in terms of the use of the land and the planning decision to be made, the principle of the change of use is acceptable. Homestead Farm comprises a number of buildings which have benefited from a change of use through farm diversification. In terms of the high wheeled area of outstanding natural beauty and countryside, the proposed use will satisfy the criteria of Policy DP16 in the District Plan and Policy AS3 of the Neighbourhood Plan. It will conserve the landscape character and not detract from the visual qualities and essential characteristics of the AONB in terms of location and design. The proposed external alterations to the building are of no material significance. There is no public right-of-way within vicinity of the application building. In terms of residential amenity, no significant harm would result to the living conditions for households within the locality, which are sporadically located. The nearest residential properties are around 70 metres away and at the entrance of Homestead Farm Business Park. Beyond this, they are about 500 metres away. There are no objections raised from the Environment Agency, Mid Sussex District Council's Environmental Health Officer or West Sussex County Council in relation to environmental protection and highways matters. It is proposed to use the existing access. The proposed development will provide a renewable energy scheme that is at its research and development initial phase, which will not materially harm the air quality status of the Ashdown Forest. The proposed development is compliant with the criteria of relevant Mid Sussex District Plan policies, the Site Allocation Development Plan and the Anstey and Staplefield Neighbourhood Plan. It is also compliant with the provisions contained within the National Planning Policy Framework. Overall, and given the above, it is considered that the proposed change of use is acceptable in planning terms, and as such, it is recommended that planning permission be granted. There are no planning grounds to resist the proposed change of use. That brings my presentation to a close. Thank you, Chairman.
I do have some speakers on this. And it is speaking against is Councillor, please don't hate me, Nulala, Hampshire. It was close, wasn't it? One bad effort. Good. And Councillor Hampshire is Parish Councillor for Anstey and Staplefield.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Nuala Hampshire, and on this application, I consider the location, input, output, and facility itself all to have major issues in terms of planning, monitoring, design, and location. The AONB will be impacted by emissions, some of which are carcinogenic. No environmental agency monitoring is taking place. The Council is working towards the very important net zero targets, but it seems Ricardo, the operator, will create the analysis for the programme. The external audit is essential, and the Environment Agency should be doing that, not Ricardo or Mid Sussex Council. Houses and businesses immediately next to the proposed facility will be subject to supposed low levels of emission, plus ongoing noise, 24/7, 365 days a year. The waste-to-energy facility is a trial due to end in 18 months. If successful, it will be replaced by a much larger facility requiring a further change of use and an even larger facility. Success, it seems, is going to be determined by the analysis of the operator. The building itself is not custom built for noise or emissions, and the flue will add to industrialisation of the rural area of AONB. The continuous operation has no restrictions on traffic movements and manpower movements, which may occur at any time of the day or night. No disposal methods of byproducts or use of output have been detailed. The aim of zero carbon is of course necessary and admirable, but members of this committee surely want to ensure such a programme is delivering its stated aim and is able to stand up to legitimate scrutiny. This application harms the AONB, does not have adequate conditions or monitoring, and I respectfully request that this application be refused. Thank you.
I'll give you that, about 3 seconds beyond your time, but not bad, not bad. As you know, Mr. Conway, who was down to speak, but our legal officer is going to do his speech on his behalf. You're going to have to be ambidextrous. You're going to have to hit the button at the same time.
I'm speaking on behalf of Mr Gerard Conway, who is a Cookfield resident. Ricardo plc announced in a press release on the 12th of July 2022 that it had received a 3 million grant from the Department of Business for the manufacture of the energy from waste plant at Homestead Farm, now under consideration. Ricardo then provided advice to MSDC in its net zero carbon emissions report 2 months later. This suggested that MSDC could support organisations applying to generate energy from waste. It also suggested that MSDC could influence such projects in its capacity as local planning authority. In the same month, Ricardo submitted the current planning application under DM 222808. The application site is located in the High Weald area of outstanding natural beauty. National planning policy states that great weight should not only be given to the conservation and enhancement of its landscape, but also to its wildlife. The proposal does neither. It has also not been demonstrated why this proposal for an intensive industrial use needs to be in this sensitive location. In my opinion, the Planning Officer's report does not admit the likely full extent of development being contemplated, its close proximity to existing residential, office and recreational uses, that the plant will operate 24 hours a day, generating noise and disturbance, that there's no effective control over pollution from it, including toxins and carcinogens, that there's no control over floodlighting, and that the applicant's interested in permanently retaining the site at the end of the demonstration phase in 2024. This would presumably be on an expanded basis, given the comment in Ricardo's press release that the proposal under consideration is quarter-sized. It's furthermore not been demonstrated that the plant will lead to a net reduction in carbon emissions, nor it will lead to an increase in employment. The proposal should, with respect, be refused.
Give you that one. Speaking on support of it, Joshua Dalby.
I'm Joshua Dolby. I'm the Chief Engineer for this project at Ricardo. This research and development project will demonstrate a climate repairing technology that has a carbon negative footprint. It will also demonstrate the effectiveness of community scale clean energy generation using local and sustainably sourced forestry waste. Ricardo is leading the project and is locally based in Shoreham-by-Sea. The UK government has made a £3 million investment to enable us to do a real-world demonstration of this technology, and we've been pleased to find a local site here in West Sussex. Our planning application relates to a research and development project with an 18-month duration, during which time we expect the demonstrator plant's operating hours to be 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. In making our application, we have undertaken a very thorough and rigorous assessment of any potential impacts in relation to air, light and noise pollution and road traffic safety. Even taking very pessimistic assumptions, our findings show that any impacts are so minimal they are likely to be unobservable. The noise and traffic assessments have been undertaken by independent consultants. The Environment Agency have scrutinised the approach and results from our air pollution assessment. If our planning application were to be successful, the Environment Agency will monitor and review potential impacts on a regular basis for the duration of the project and enforce additional control measures or restrictions if required. Independent rigour is very important to us because this is a community that we have a share in. Ricardo has operated for over 100 years, and throughout that time, our employees have long been proud residents of this area. 29 current Ricardo employees live in the district of Mid Sussex. This project will safeguard and sustain existing high-skill engineering jobs in this district by enabling Ricardo to move further into the clean energy and environment sector, which is a key future component to the Greater Sussex economy.
Thank you very much. Okay. And can I call Richard Gordon, who's speaking on behalf of Jamie Kirkman?
Thank you very much. So I'm reading on behalf of Jamie Kirkman. He is the head forester and sawmill manager at Balcombe Sawmill. I represent the Balcombe estate, and we support the proposal because of the wide environmental and energy benefits it will bring to our community, as well as helping to support and expand local job opportunities. The Balcombe estate is just 4 miles up the road from Homestead Farm. It's a country estate comprising mixed sustainable woodland and a sawmill, employing 9 local people. The woodlands require management work, which involves thinning out the trees of poorer quality to allow the remainder to grow on. Trees in managed woodland sequester carbon more efficiently than those in neglected woodland. We also help other local estates manage their woodlands in a similar way. Our sawmill uses larger trees from these sustainable woodlands to make timber building components such as beams, timber cladding and fencing. These timbers lock up carbon for the life of the building they are used in. The result of the sawing process gives rise to offcuts known as slab wood. The plant at Homestead Farm will give an outlet for both the thinnings from the woodland and also the slab wood without the need for long distance transportation to other power plants such as Kent Renewable Energy in Kent. Having this market would in turn allow other local woodlands owners to manage their trees while also producing renewable energy and useful products such as biochar, which is light charcoal, which can be used by local farmers and growers to enrich their soil, meaning our whole wider community could benefit. Many thanks, Jamie Kirkland.
Thank you. I'm going to take the unusual step of actually speaking first today, as I am, my ward is mentioned just then. I do know Mr. Kirkman. He is the head forester on the Balcombe estate, and traditionally the waste has actually made its way up to your village in the past, to the community biomass up there. So Balcombe Parish Council, Balcombe Estate are well known for using the offcuts and shreddings from their wood mills for this. I do wish to say something about the fact that Ricardo has been mentioned. They are one of the many experts that the Mid Sussex District Council use, not just in this net zero bit, but we do use other local experts to give us information and help when we make our plans in the future. I think I'd better leave it at that, because I would like to hear what the rest of the committee say on it. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, there was an omission. I ought to have made a declaration under item 2.
Ooh. Because
I, in fact, chaired all of the meetings of Mid Sussex Net Zero emissions papers. And so
we'll put that down.
I'm declaring it now. Thank
okay.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, is that it?
Yes, well, I've got something to say later, but I thought I needed to make that very clear to everybody first rather than at the end.
Okay. Do you want to add anything while you've got the floor?
No, I'll listen to others.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, a question, if I may, Chairman. If the Environmental Agency decided that the flue stack should be higher for the safe operation, would it actually come back to us for reconsideration, or would it just be amended on their recommendation?
Mr. Ashdown.
Yeah, it would have to come back because that's not part of the application. So the size of the flue is shown on the application drawings which you're considering. So if that changes in the future, that would need a separate permission.
Thank you. So they'll basically shut the operation down while they put a new, if they do that. Councillor Brown, you should like this one.
Thank you, Chairman. So I obviously welcome this type of R&D in the district, and noting the proximity with Balcombe, that answers one of my questions about the supply of fuel. I don't see much of a lay-down space. There's a little storage in space in the barn, but can I be advised how much storage space there would be, and is there outside, and is that likely to affect the planning. The next thing is, forgive me, I didn't get a paper copy of the revised agenda, but there's this question of the nearest building being, I've heard, 70 metres away, whereas on the previous agenda it said 500 metres away. And, you know, this thing is going to give off particulate matter, and obviously we're told that the Environment Agency is not part of our consideration at the moment, but nevertheless, I'm concerned that there might be a harm to a nearby resident, and has that been considered? And then my third question is about the future of this site. At the end of the R&D phase, the technology is found to be viable, then we'd need to submit a new application for this site, changing its use class. And obviously, I would imagine it would be larger. I mean, so my question is, if we approve this, does that have any material influence on a larger application on this same site being sort of found more acceptable, or, you know, by the planning officers and the planning committee? Thank you.
Good question. I take a slightly contrary view. If this is a research and development site and the technology is proven to be achievable, I don't think you can put a bigger site on this site, but that would be subject to a planning application down the line, should they do that. But it could be elsewhere within the district, it could be elsewhere outside the district, but we can't speculate on that. We're only dealing with what we've got in front of us at this point in time. The officer might want to show where the nearest house is. I know where it is because I've visited this site so many times on other applications. But is that is the L shape is there, isn't it? Yeah. They're within the local. The other longer one is the religious school down the road, isn't it? Going northbound up that area, yeah. Yeah, because we gave. Yeah. Do you want to come back?
Please. Thank you, Chairman, for letting me come back. The second one first. The wind direction, of course, is prevailing as westerly, and so they are downwind of the site. And then going back to the first point, it says here, as I say, that that Ricardo or whoever would need to submit a new application for this site. So they are. That's quite worrying, really. And I mean, I worked in R&D, so I know that R&D is usually done in dedicated areas. But so I don't really think that you've quite taken my concern on board there. But I wouldn't want to see this become an industrial site, and this planning application be cited as some kind of, prior approval for that. Thank you.
Mr. Ashdown's going to answer that one.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, in terms of basically what we're saying in the report is, this proposal is just for R&D. If as a result of that they wanted to make something more permanent, that's a change of use. It's a completely different use class to what they're proposing. So if they wanted to use this site, they'd need to submit a new planning application. And clearly that application will be considered on its merits. Clearly there are constraints that we're all fully aware of in terms of obviously physical constraints in terms of the surrounding buildings and the fact that it's in the AUMB. So clearly were an application to be submitted in the future for a larger facility, then that's a whole different set of issues that we'd need to look at that time. And so this isn't a precursor to shall we say, as you say, like a prerequisite to allowing a larger unit on site, because that would have to be considered on its own merits.
Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say I'm struggling with this application. I'm sure all of the councillors have read the document which we've all got, and I think the secret of some of this is, in fact, item 7 is supplied today. It says, this site lies in countryside area of development restraint and high-wheeled area of outstanding natural beauty. That concerns me, Mr. Chairman, what we're doing here. This is effectively, it's in the title, it's a farm. We've just seen the store is a grain store. So in other words, we're taking out the production of grain, which we desperately need in this country.
Can I stop you there a second? That's not been a farm for absolutely donkey's years.
But there was grain in the...
that was storage.
Yes. Well, but so the storage for the grain is going. So that's why I sort of struggle, because that's not apparently, and it's not part of this application that's put somewhere else. We were told last night at full council that every application ought to have 10% diversity attached to any application, and I'm not quite seeing that. I'm struggling with the access in the road, which, if anybody looks on the Google Maps, is fine for a tractor and stuff to go down there, but for HGVs to go down there, I would suggest it's totally unacceptable, the size of that road.
It's a B road.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can happily, everybody can look on Google Maps and you can see that an HGV will touch both sides, B road or not. So it's that gives me the concern that we're looking at. West Sussex, needless to say, that it's not a problem. And they, on page 61 there, but they do admit, surprisingly for West Sussex, that people probably will have to drive there. But I really struggle with this development, Mr. Chairman, because if effectively this is the thin end of the wedge to go to something which is much bigger in an area of outstanding natural beauty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I've got to pick up a little technicality there. That is the B2110, which comes from East Grinstead all the way through. It's on a bus route. Double-decker buses go up and down that road. So I'm a little bit concerned. We are talking about the same road. I mean, when they come off the road into the site, yeah, I agree with that. But that is a really wide road, that is, from Staplefield going through down to Slough Green and then on through to Cookfield. We have given something like this before, and I've alluded to it before, in Councillor Brown's village. We gave permission for a biomass or a community up there to supply heat. Now, this is obviously taking it a little bit further than just heating up. I think it was about 21 houses in that community up there in your village. 29 was close, wasn't it? Not bad. Not bad. 29. We gave permission, God knows how many years ago, for that. I hear where you're coming from. In areas of outstanding natural beauty, the building's there. It's not a working farm. It supports. I happen to know there's a charity there that supports the Vera Lynn charity there, because I pointed them in the direction of that site. So I hear where you're coming from. We might have to disagree on the width of the road, though, I'm afraid. But it is the main road out of Staplefield and Handcross. But I have no... Oh, Councillor Phillips, you sneaked in.
Sorry, thanks for letting me come back, Chairman. Yes, sorry, there was one additional issue. In the presentation that was read out, there was a claim that some of the emissions would be carcinogenic. Are we confident that that actually is not the case?
Sorry, we were being rude. We were mentioning Councillor Brown's concern. Can you repeat?
Yeah, sorry.
Please?
Yeah, in the presentation that was read out, there was a comment that some of the emissions will be carcinogenic. Are we confident that that will not be the case? It's wood. I'd like to think it isn't, but I think some of the treatment has before it.
I might
think
go
this
to
is the question.
my expert, who was an environmental health officer, Councillor Forbes. You're probably better equipped to answer that one.
Well, what I was going to say is, even if we grant this, they need environment permit from the Environment Agency, and I can assure you, I've dealt with them in the past, and they are very strict. And most of what we've been saying here about the problems with this, I can assure you that the agency will not grant anything unless they're actually certain. I don't know if that answers your...
I've just been informed by my vice chairman that it's retired environmental health officer.
I'm retired, God, yes.
But it's subject to a whole load of regulations. The Environmental Health Act. I think you might want to come in here, Rachel.
The applicant has currently submitted an environmental permit with the Environment Agency, which is pending decision. The Environmental Protection Officer and officers at the council have also said no comment, not no comment, but no objection. And also that this is to be dealt with as a planning land use issue rather than getting involved in the emissions. That's for the Pollution Control Authority, and the Pollution Control Authority is the Environment Agency. So it's not for us to get involved in that and consider that issue, because the Environment Agency will be looking at that and dealing with that issue.
You happy with that? Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Ashdown's going to answer your question, Mr. Councillor Brown, about the storage.
We hadn't answered your question about storage. So you see, in terms of the update sheet, there is in condition 5 suggested, which says there should be no external storage. So correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but all storage will be inside the building, hence why we've put that condition on, so we don't have unfettered external storage.
Thank you. Do you wish to come back, Councillor Forbes?
Yes, please. Yeah. It was just that I put a few things down about the area outstanding natural beauty. If you look on the planning history, he's got in August 2022, he's got a car body repair workshop. Then the same year, he's got an agricultural building for 4 units, fitness unit, car polishing workshop, 2 flexible units, including site external toilets, car parking, etc. The one that fascinates me, I don't know if it's any, DM22, 10 bell tents and a stretch tent and car parking was given permission. What, are they still there, or?
That's actually further.
Yeah, go on.
That's actually further south of the site. So that's actually down here.
Okay.
So that's not within the kind of complex of farm buildings that have been converted and subject to diversification.
Yeah. And I noticed also that the fire and excess of water has said that about the fire hydrant, which obviously can be taken. It's 265 metres further than the 90 metres distance required.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to ask, but I think you've answered that, Chairman. I've had a letter complaining the applicant appears to have a conflict of interest. But I think you answered that already. So.
It was a question that we asked, and we've had many external. Do you want to speak for?
A conflict of interest does not arise if an applicant works for or conducts work for the council. This is because planning decisions are made by the local planning authority, and in this case, the planning committee, which has been delegated this responsibility. Councils are permitted to determine their own applications or those of their members or officers, and this is permitted by the Town and Country Planning Act, Regulation 3, and the Council's own constitution. Some of the members of the Planning Committee, as has already been discussed, are members of other committees, whereby they have come across applicants in other roles. And with regard to this applicant, Ricardo has been commissioned by the council as a local authority, not local planning authority, to advise on matters including achieving net zero. Reports commissioned by Ricardo on net zero or on the local plan or other matters have been presented to officers and members of various committees, including the Scrutiny Committee for Planning, Economic Growth and Net Zero, on which some of the members of this planning committee sit. This does not mean that there is a conflict of interest. So in this committee, the council, in its role as local planning authority, is considering the planning application, which is separate from its role as a local authority in dealing with any other matter which the applicant has been involved in. And so just to summarise, members are aware that they should come to the committee with an open mind to hear the officer presenting the report, advice from officers, comments made from speakers, and the views of other members before making their decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have no other public speakers. Can I have a proposal?
Recommended, Chairman.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Sweatman? Can I ask members to vote in the normal way, please? Green if you approve it, red if you don't, yellow if you are abstaining. I have 11 people in. I think I'll have this one read out, please.
The results are 9 members have voted for the application. 2 members have abstained, so the motion is carried and the application is approved.
And that is a subject to the additional condition of no external storage shall be permitted unless otherwise first agreed in writing by the local plan authority, and the reasons are on our update sheet. Thank you. And ironically, Paul has just actually touched on the next item, and the only reason it is here, which I shall, it is on page 81. It is on page 83, sorry. And the only reason it is here, we were going to have it a few months ago, is because the applicant works for Mid Sussex District Council. Do we wish to have a...
Move it recommended, Chairman.
Thanks, Chairman. It's recommended, and incidentally, I think the extension is smaller than originally.
It is smaller.
So,
it is a lot smaller than...
And the only reason, like you quite rightly say, it's only here before the applicant is a member of the district council.
And works in the planning department.
That's why it's here.
It's in the planning department as well. Oh, a bit dodgy, isn't it? Right, can we, I've got a proposal and a seconder, Councillor Sweatman and Councillor Coote. Can we ask you to vote, please, in the normal way? That's 11-0, and that application has been approved. I'll tell you about it in a minute. Right, item 9, questions pursuant to Council Rule Procedure 10.2, due notice which has been given. I have none. I will close the meeting at 17:38-ish, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time, because we've got a quick turnaround because of the problems we had, and we'll see everybody on April the 13th, but it's not a Friday. Thank you, members. Thank you.